Have you ever found yourself reacting intensely to a situation and later wondering, why did that hit me so hard? Maybe your heart starts racing, your chest tightens, or you suddenly feel small, helpless, or ashamed. Like you are a kid again. That is not you overreacting. That is very likely an emotional flashback. If you grew up in a dysfunctional family, especially with parentification or emotional neglect, these flashbacks can feel like they come out of nowhere, hijacking your emotions before you even know what's happening. But the good news is, emotional flashbacks are not permanent. You can learn to recognize, regulate, and heal them. In today's video, we're going to dive into what an emotional flashback is, how it differs from a memory flashback, how family dynamics can trigger them even in adulthood, and practical tools to ground yourself and soothe your nervous system. Because when you understand what's happening, you take your power back. So let's get into it. What is an emotional flashback? When we think of flashbacks, we often imagine visual memories like a war veteran seeing explosions or a survivor reliving a traumatic event. But emotional flashbacks are different. They aren't about seeing the past, they're about feeling it. Like you're suddenly transported back into an old emotional state without knowing why. So let's talk about what it feels like: sudden overwhelming fear, panic or shame, feeling small, helpless, like a child again, intense self criticism, like you've done something wrong, and the urge to hide, people please, or fight back. You may feel in despair or unworthy. And the hardest part is that it happens so fast that it feels like reality. Your logical brain knows that you are safe now, that you are an adult, that you are not in danger, but your nervous system doesn't get the memo. It's like sleeping on an emotional landmine from childhood, one that catapults you into the past and erases the present completely and makes you experience it differently. So, what triggers an emotional flashback? Emotional flashbacks are usually triggered by situations that subconsciously remind your nervous system of a past trauma. For those of us who grew up with emotionally immature, neglectful, or abusive parents, those triggers often show up in family dynamics, interactions, or close relationships. Common triggers in family dynamics: feeling dismissed or ignored, memories of not being heard as a child, being criticized, or actively feel shame, feeling responsible for someone else's emotions, bringing back parentification wounds, conflict or raised voices. It reawakens memories of unpredictability, and feeling rejected. It triggers anxious attachment wounds or abandonment. So imagine you are at a family gathering and there is a passive aggressive comment. Oh, you're too sensitive. You always take things too personal, right? Logically, you know this is unfair, but suddenly your emotions get the best of you and you're back into that 6 year old again that feels ashamed, that desperately wants to be heard and understood. And that's an emotional flashback in real time. It's not about the comment, it's what it represents. The real question is, how do we pull ourselves back to be present and regulate? When you are in an emotional flashback, your body and mind believe you're back in the past. The key is to interrupt the cycle and bring yourself back to the present moment. Number one, name it to tame it. The first step is to recognize I'm having an emotional flashback. Just saying this out loud helps your brain create distance between the feeling and the reality it reminds you. This is an old wound and I'm being reactivated. But you are not regressing, you are remembering. Number two, engage your senses. Flashbacks pull you into the past, so grounding pulls you into the here and now. Try the 5-4-3-2-1 method. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Temperature shifts. Splash cold water on your face, hold an ice cube in your hand, and step outside into fresh air. Number 3, reconnect with your inner child. Since emotional flashbacks are about childhood emotions resurfacing, we need to self soothe that younger part of us. Try placing a hand over your heart and saying, I see you, I hear you, you are safe now. What would your loving inner parent say to your younger self? This helps reparent the part of you that was never comforted before. Number 4, move the stuck energy. Flashbacks get stored in the body, so movement helps release them. Go for a walk, journal out your feelings, shake out your arms and legs, or jump. Do some jumping jacks. Movement signals to your brain, I am not frozen, I am safe, and I have choices now. Emotional flashbacks can feel overwhelming, but they do not define you. Every time you recognize a flashback, ground yourself and respond with compassion instead of shame. You are breaking the cycle one day at a time, one flashback at a time. And that is the real work of healing. If this video resonated with you, drop a comment below and let me know what's one grounding technique you want to try. And if you want more tools to heal from complex trauma, childhood wounds, and parentification, make sure to subscribe and consider joining our Self-Worth Hub membership, where we dive into healing emotional flashbacks and dysfunctional family dynamics that may be holding you back, where you can feel safe, compassionately heard, and seen, because you're not broken. You are healing and growing. I will see you in the next video. Take care, and please remember your resilience.